The fuck I just watched? You join me now in a very special car, the Audi TTRS in Kyalami green. And it's special for many reasons. The fact that it's the fastest Audi TT ever produced, and then there's the fact that it might be the last one they ever produced, because good things don't last forever. And on that note, let's talk about the latest installment of the Fast and Furious Saga, the trashiest one of them all. Let me explain. Now, before I talk about this ninth film, it's worth mentioning that if you took the very first three movies as a trilogy on its own, Vin Diesel's role, Dom Toretto, would be actually smaller than Lucas Black's role of Sean from Tokyo Drift. In that Vin Diesel wasn't the main guy in the first movie. He was very much, sidelined by Paul Walker, his character Brian, and therefore might have been a badass, but was certainly less likable and certainly didn't get to be the star of the show like the Tokyo Drift guy. And in the second movie, well, that was just Paul Walker and introducing Tyrese, and none of that really matters, I guess. So there's a couple of things that I think led to the downfall of storytelling in this movie. One of them being Chris Morgan, the writer on the series of movies since Tokyo Drift, so a long time coming. He's departed since Hobbs and Shaw, which by all means, if you include it, this is the 10th movie now. But I want to talk, this is not necessarily a movie review. I want to talk about how I feel about this whole thing. Like, when that first movie came out in 2001, that was very much like a formative period for me. I was becoming the petrolhead that I would eventually, that's in this Audi TT right now. I loved that. And that first movie, the street racing, the culture, because I'm from the Cape Flats, we're a region of underdogs, and that movie was about the underdog, that scene with the Supra and the Ferrari, it's just like
smoke.
That was everything. That was like coming with, running what you brung and taking routes, you know what I mean? But like, there was magic in it. I tracked down the original article called Racer X that inspired the movie. And the movie, by all means, it's Point Break, but with cars instead of surfboards. But it meant something to me. I knew then that cars were like integral to my being. I needed to write about cars. One day I would film cars, but that was where I was going. And of course, I wanted to modify my own cars. So just like, street racing back in the day, it's something that I did, but it's something I grew around. It was a massive part of who we are on the Cape Flats, and I watched that first movie, and they would gather and they would organize their street races, and it would remind me of, what we were witnessing on Makassar Road, Klipfontein Road, going to Sandfontein Pavilion, and there was just this whole community, and it wasn't all naughty, it was camaraderie and so on. And then this movie came out, and it was like we were laser focused on what we wanted to do with our lives, and we understood the international scope of tuning and tuners, and we saw the kinds of people that were behind it, and we could recognize ourselves in them and so on. And that's the other thing. So the way I see it, that was the first movie. The second movie was, this Miami Vice style heisty type thing with these two guys and these two cars. But we loved the cars, the Evos and so on. Third movie came around, and drifting was big, and drifting was growing. And that Keiichi Tsuchiya in there, it was legit for a couple of reasons. Then the fourth one came around, and they got the gang back together. Vin Diesel was back, Paul Walker was back, and that fourth movie felt for me like the template for the movies that would come. Didn't have The Rock yet, but that was, and that was fine. That was the first movie where they kind of like, they were going in this direction with these super action-packed, super spy, freaking, as opposed to being full-on Avengers now. They were kind of like James Bond lights, like Triple X, Vin himself. And then with the fifth one, and The Rock, and they had the template down. It was down, and they were still delivering on cool cars. So that's what the first couple of movies, in fact, all of them up until now, like really dope genre of car, like your Japanese tuner car, your muscle car, some cool Euro cars made their way in, supercars. Not a massive fan of the supercars, but they're pretty, they're purple, they're interesting. And the way they would build these things, like, they were like the super evolution of what you could do with your car. And they got so much credit when they introduced that Mexico, that Ford Escort Mexico. And we knew that we were in the right hands. That these guys were like car guys, and they were just let to run wild, like just go nuts and be freaking super James Bond types in these badass cars, and that was awesome. And even up until Hobbs and Shaw, the formula was still kind of there. It was like rolling your eyes to the point of like hectic migraines, but that was fine. I was entertained. And that brings me to this 9th Fast and Furious movie / 10th movie if you count Hobbs and Shaw. So I mean, the series has endured a lot, like losing Paul Walker, infighting between the Rock, Vin Diesel, Tyrese, just like a lot of alpha males just butting up against each other and going nuts, and you know, testosterone and so on. I also want to just say, like, from that very first movie, you know, there were badass chicks in the show, like not a big Michelle Rodriguez fan, but her character was pretty cool. She was like well-rounded, she was racing, she was not backing down. And since then, we've had so many other characters in there that's just been not grounded, just like crazy, hyper-real, not hyper-realistic, just hyper-real, like just way too much. Bottom line, this new movie's got no heart, and there wasn't any cool cars in it. That was like the one thread. There was like a almost standard looking Mustang versus an almost standard looking Charger or something. I can't remember. Like, there was just a bunch of new cars, apart from a Fiero, which is in itself a meme. Like, it's a meme car. And then they just didn't hold back on the memes. It was like meme apocalypse. The whole go to space, what's next? Are we gonna see them in space? That happened. There was some really like, there's a lot of things in the Fast and Furious series, from the first one with the many gearbox changes and so on. But in this one, it was like, okay, we're now at the point where you're milking your audience. Like, you know, we'll suck up anything, so just go ahead and do it. Like, it's not even ironic anymore. Now it's just like poking fun at us. And the one thing, no, there's many things. The giant magnet, freaking pushing and pulling other cars and selectively killing people, and Vin Diesel going full on super soldier and like just destroying people. Damn these models. My God, there's some crazy shit in this movie, but not crazy good. Crazy like, okay then, sure. And obviously the freaking bridge, Vin Diesel, like, just like full lock, catching a rope with his car and swinging across a mountain and so on. Like, what? I was there for that scene, I think it was in Fast 5, where they jump from like one bridge to the other, and you're like, dude, I don't even know. It's a blur, but I've enjoyed, I can pick up any of the Fast and Furious movies and watch them. Hobbs and Shaw you can watch because it's like awesome actors doing awesome action things, and the cars are cool, and just like a lot of lovable people in there, so you'll go watch it. But this shit, woo, redeeming things. I almost want to say like Tyrese and Luda's relationship is believable, but it's a lot of the writing done for them. It's so basic, and the humor is so basic. You're laughing at them because they're likable as someone over there. You like them, so you're watching it and you're enjoying it, but it's like, it's nothing clever. A verdict, I don't really have a verdict. There's nothing redeemable about this. This is like a 1 out of 10 movie for me, just because my primal brain likes seeing action and explosions and cars and stuff like that. So I mean, that was fine, but in terms of a car guy, there's not much to see here as opposed to something like a Six Underground or just any action movie that has some cars in it. Man, there must be something. Nope. Oh, kind of a plus for me was I didn't feel like they were pushing any agendas, and this was just straight up storytelling, which I appreciated. But generally, why would you go watch this movie? You'll watch this movie because you're a creature of habit and you've seen the rest and you want to see where this goes. Fine, do that. Other reasons to watch it? Well, no, there aren't any. But here's what this movie has had me pondering. I know there'll be a 10th movie because this film has been successful enough for people to stay tuned, keep coming back and watching this one, and it's done okay in the cinemas and so on. But I don't see the die-hard crowd returning to watch this. If they can stream it at home, post-lockdown, the movie is not the occasion it used to be. I mean, I used to work for Max Power magazine, and we would get like the next Fast and Furious, we would get the press information, photos, and the rest of it like ahead of everyone else. And we would get so stoked. And now it's just like, dude, what is the bullshit family situation? What is the bullshit car situation? And just move on. Nothing else to report, really. I've got no doubt Fast and Furious 10 will be much in the vein of this one. Crazy and excessive and gratuitous, and we'll see where it takes us, sort of thing. But ugh.
Street's closed, pizza boy. Find another way home.
Goddamn street racer.
I'm giving you big hugs in a second. I'm doing it live. I'm doing it live. I'll give big hugs in a second. I'm doing it live.